and I think definitely in the long run, I would like to be an equity partner. Definitely, as I, it's a goal of mine to own my own business or be part of owning my own business. I think that is a really, really big thing for me.
I think that's probably a natural step for you on your journey, especially given your age in your early 20s, that you want to go on to achieve that. What I would say, just as a kind of advice from myself, having gone through a similar journey where I was kind of middle management, worked my way up, I actually become a partner, and then in the end I left and set up on my own. Is that so I'm Matthew Cox, and I'm a business strategist. I've run and grown multiple businesses over the last 15 or so years. Join me on my journey with helping other entrepreneurs figure out what their goals are, how to set them, and how to achieve them. So we've got an interesting one today. We've got Jake Brown from Mango Insurance. We had Catherine on a few weeks ago. If anybody wants to go back and have a look at that podcast, but we've got Jake on right now. We're going to have a look at a few of his goals and the rest of it. But I've got some real concerns for Jake. I really worry that if he's going to put all his heart and soul into this business, is he actually ever going to make an equity partner? Does he have it written down on a bit of paper or agreed in an email exactly how his journey is going to map out? And I think that's a real key important part for anybody that isn't perhaps a business owner. They're a key development staff and they're going to grow with the business. You need your own protection on this. So we're going to have a little talk about that and make sure that Jake is going to, all his hard work that he's going to put into this is going to actually end up in a solid, rewardable achievement at the end of his journey. So let's get stuck straight into the podcast. Hope you enjoy this one. So welcome everybody. We've got Jake Brown here today from Mango Insurance, and he's going to have a little chat to us about his kind of goals and maybe what kind of troubles that he's going to have along the way to getting to those goals. But before we get cracking, I know we've had Catherine from Mango Insurance on here before. So give me a kind of like a brief synopsis of your involvement, because it's slightly different to Catherine's, because obviously it's an amalgamation of some various businesses to come up with the kind of how we arrive now, really, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yeah. So at Mango, there's 4 in the team. So we've got our 2 directors, which is Chris and then Catherine. And then Catherine's also our main broker. So she deals with the most amount of quoting. Then you've got myself, who is like an account handler. So I'm there mainly to obviously deal with the quoting, assist Catherine alongside with other various, business admin activities such as networking, etc. And then finally, we've got Jackie on the team, which is also another account handler, same as me, but she only deals with just taxi, and she used to be the ex-owner. So we've also then got a sister company called Top Sail, which is a marine insurer, so same industry, and that is how Mango kind of came about, as we then acquired Mango through via Top Sail, and Chris is also the MD of that firm, so that's kind of the connection in between, and then I'm also associated with both firms. So that's kind of the that's how we got here. So that's the definitely, that's kind of the arrangement between the two. Yeah. So a question I like to ask all the podcast guests when they come on. Tell me, and I know it wasn't that long ago because you're actually younger than people might otherwise believe, but tell me a bit about kind of young Jake at school. So what were you like from the ages of kind of maybe just before secondary school up to kind of working age, I suppose? So as you say, well, not that long ago, really. I mean, in secondary school, I always knew I wanted to go into business. So that's kind of like in all honesty, I cannot remember what I wanted to be in primary school. Everyone wants to be an astronaut or a race car driver. So it's probably one of those. But when you kind of get to an age where you're starting to think about your future and career, I always knew it was going to be business, some kind of, that kind of enterprise area where whether it's up in London or kind of salesy, that was always the entry point that I kind of had planned. I think part of that is because that's what my dad had done. He was insurance as well, still is, but he was kind of sales and marketing. And I think because I kind of saw the similarities between us, I thought, maybe that's like a kind of an easy choice, because maybe I might have some of the qualities that are needed to go into that area. But funnily enough, I always said when I was growing up, because my mum does insurance, my dad does insurance, I said, I'm not going to do insurance because I don't just want to follow their path. I'm not going to do insurance, but here we are. I got sucked in. I'm glad I've done it. But that was like when I was that age, that was exactly what I said to myself. I wasn't going to do insurance, and then I kind of
Okay.
fell into it. But it was quite nice.
What were you like at school? You know, kind of GCSE level. Did you get on with those quite well? Or?
Yeah, I was always quite good at school. I was quite naturally bright. I didn't really ever like revise too much. I kind of just went straight in and just cracked on with it and got it done. I wasn't a massive fan of it. Because, you know, kind of nowadays the choices are either to kind of go to work or go to university. And that's part of the reason why I didn't choose to go to uni, because although I was okay, at school and, you know, got good results, I just didn't enjoy it. I didn't, you know, that wasn't my cup of tea. So that's why I chose not to go and kind of go straight into the life of work instead.
Perfect. Okay. So we'll dive into your kind of your goals and the rest of it. And obviously you're in a really good position at the moment, in my opinion, where you sit as in a small team, you're fairly senior in that team, and you've got some really good opportunities ahead of you to kind of be involved with this and tick that kind of entrepreneurial business type box that you go on. So we'll have a look at your kind of your first year goal, which is trying to get over the rebranding and the reputation that is known broker in your local area. Clubcast has a very reputable name in the taxi world, and I'd like Mango to have reputation in the commercial products. Obviously I touched upon some of these things, but we didn't with Catherine, but we didn't touch so much on the Clubcast, the taxi thing. So I guess the year one goal is to kind of try and make sure people know the brand, if you like, or the group more than just that kind of taxi marine life.
Yeah. So for those who haven't watched Catherine's one, the Clubcast was the previous name to Mango. So that was what the broker was always known as. So it started in 2003, and only in main product was taxi and kind of the associated things you find alongside that. Up until last year when it was purchased, and then it was still Clubcast up until very earlier on this year, in which then we decided to rebrand to Mango. As far as I know, it was always the plan to kind of change the name from Clubcast, because we wanted to take it kind of away from that taxi and change it more to the kind of commercial, kind of give it that fresh brand so people don't think taxi when they think of the name. And we wanted something refreshingly different. That's kind of the ethos behind the companies, that we didn't want to be every other insurance broker, and that's why we went for Mango. So that's kind of the history there. But the Clubcast name in the taxi world, which is obviously what it did, it was and still known as a very reputable broker. So they had a really good, all the customers knew of it very well. It was very well known in Eastbourne and had quite a good grounding there. Obviously with any new name, I really want to get it out there and get everyone knowing that Mango is one of the brokers in Eastbourne, because it's always difficult to try and get it out there. We do lots of networking, as you well know. So that's one of my goals, is I go out there and network. So it's, obviously it'd be fantastic for everyone to kind of think, oh yeah, Mango, I know that. Because when I say Clubcast, when I go to these events and meet new people, they go, oh yeah, I've heard of that. Even if it's not necessarily, even if they're not associated with taxis in any way, shape or form, they've still heard of the name. And I really like that for the same thing among businesses. When you go, oh, what's a local Eastbourne broker? They go Mango Insurance. So that is the aim. Yeah,
super. And I think we obviously I spoke to Catherine about like the kind of brand awareness and your core values and the rest of it, because you've got in your kind of 3 to 5 year plan and your 10-year plan about growing the business. So you've got more team members. Maybe you be a manager or whatever. And I think I'm going to come on. I've got some questions about your kind of longer term goals later. But in terms of gathering those members, it's it is inherent in a growing business that obviously you're going to need more people. But one of the things that we were talking about before is your core values, and making sure that you train those people and hold on to them and the rest of it, and that they believe in that as well. And the key thing, I think, is unless you need to kind of insert people up the hierarchical chain because you've grown rapidly, it's always best to try and nurture people from like the ground up, if you like. So take on those apprentices or whatever, like lower management team, and then install those core values in them and bring them up. And that will help you if you go on to manage people much easier, because then they believe in the system that you've done.
Yeah.
When you then suddenly go, well, we've grown massively, like we've taken on like 5, 6, 7 big clients, and then you need to suddenly insert an office manager, that can be quite hard to handle for your staff, because they suddenly realise, oh, we've grown and now this person's leapfrogged me in the chain of command, even though those people might not have many aspirations to go much further than they are now. They're quite happy doing account handling or whatever they might be doing. They then get their nose put out of joint when you go, well, we need an office manager, or this guy's your supervisor now. And they're like, yeah, but where's he from? Oh, we got him from Aviva and he's really great or whatever, but he doesn't believe in any of the core values because he's been corporated to brain numbingly.
Corporate brain to the max.
So that's something like really to kind of watch out with as you grow. And I suppose that kind of brings me on a little bit to yourself as well. I've got your kind of what might stop you reaching these goals and the rest of it. But before we get on to that, what are your personal goals? Presumably you'd like to either become an equity partner or something like that in the firm or something.
Yeah, I think first step for me would be to, as I kind of said in my goals, is to be a manager. So that's why they kind of align with taking more people on. Because obviously you've got to have the staff to manage to be a manager. So that's not something that I've done, but it is a kind of personal aspiration of mine, is to manage a team. That is probably the next step. If we're talking 5 to 10 years, that's probably the most realistic next step that I would say is achievable. That would be really nice. I think that's just a skill that I do well under my belt, is to be able to manage people. So that would be fantastic. And I think definitely in the long run, I would like to be an equity partner. Definitely, as I it's a goal of mine to own my own business, or be part of owning my own business. I think that is a really, really big thing for me.
I think that's probably a natural step for you on your journey, especially given your age in your early 20s, that you want to go on to achieve that. What I would say, just as a kind of advice from myself, having gone through a similar journey where I was kind of middle management, worked my way up, I actually become a partner, and then in the end I left and set up on my own. Is that in that journey there are some things that will kind of come along for you. One of the big things for you that I foresee is that you'll grow this business and it will become a fairly large corporate entity. And at that pace, if you talk to future Jake, who's 28 years old or whatever, early 30s, and you're ready to buy in or whatever, there will be a level of resentment from you that you spent all this time growing this business that's now cost you more to buy in at that stage. Like, I see that quite a lot in people. Like, I had that same thing. I felt quite hard done by that. But in a way, that is your journey to building that and actually being invited into the partnership. So there are a lot of people I come across where they're like, I think I might go on my own, but why do you want to go on your own? Well, the partners, there was only 3 of us when we first started, and now there's like 20 of us, and now the business is worth 2 million and it was worth 250,000 when I joined, and I've helped them grow it to that point. So I feel like I should get a slight discount or something like that, but they probably won't feel the same, because they're like, well, we nurtured you through the system. So future Jake, if you like, when you're ready to doing that, you have to consider that, at the end of the day, you're convincing them that you want to join their partnership at that point in time. It's always worth maybe mapping out your future with the partners at the moment and saying, look, this is what I want to achieve and what I'm expecting. So I will grow your business, but I'm not expecting to get sort of done over if it turns into like a 10 million pound business, and then they'll go, well, you can buy 10% for £1 million, and you go, well, I haven't even got £1 million, so I can't ever buy in now. I've shot myself in the foot by growing it too big. So it'd be worth probably sitting down on part of your journey, and I'm sure Catherine's probably going like this.
She's turned off the podcast.
She's turned off the podcast at this moment, but this is your podcast. So I would just say it's worth just mapping out that. But the benefit for Catherine is that it will keep you stuck in the business, because you'll go, I know where I'm going. I've got that KPI, that key performance indicator, that I know if I can grow the business to this amount, I'm going to get rewarded with this at some point in the van. It doesn't have to be set in stone, just something for you to focus on.
Yeah, definitely.
And you know that if you grow it loads, it's not going to then just cost you a load. I mean, I've got a good friend of mine who I won't mention their business just because of the dynamics of that business, but one of them is looking at retiring. There's 4 partners. One partner's looking at retiring. They want to buy that partner out, but the valuation of the business is much higher than he was hoping because he has contributed so much to the business that he feels now that like a percentage of that valuation is because of him. So if he was to leave, then that business is worth less anyway because he's not contributing to it. So he's going through that emotional transition of feeling like a bit hard done by that because he didn't agree what was going to happen at a future date,
right? Yeah,
to protect himself really. So yeah, I think that's really brilliant. But for Catherine and the other partners, it's a really good way of being like, right, Jake, we want you involved long term. We're good with that. We're happy to agree this, and then that way they know that you're secure, and you're not going to get to that point where you go, I'm going to buy in, and you go, well, actually, you do what I did, which was go and set up your own business, which basically ended up competing with my old firm. So there's pros and cons to both. But I really think, if your ambitions are to manage a team, get really involved, and this is going to be your protege, and you're really going to grow with Mango and the rest of it, just to make sure you map out those things for the future, and you know where you're going, they know where you're going to head, and it's easy for them as well. They can go say, Jake, you haven't reached the targets that we agreed, and then that's a different conversation then, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that's a great tip, and I think a conversation I would love to have, whether it's soon or in the future, where we kind of sit down and go, what's the next 5 years going to look like? But I do think back to your point about resentment, when you kind of get to that point and you think, you're going to charge me like 50 to 100 grand to buy in. At the same time, I think I do understand that even if I have grown that business for them, at the end of the day, it's they've taken the risk on creating this business. As an employee, I'm secure. The money goes. It's not on my head, and I haven't lost anything. So I think I kind of appreciate that. And I think if you're given the opportunity to buy in, I think you're expecting to kind of to pay quite a fair bit of money if you've grown the business.
Your level of appreciation will come purely from the fact that you've seen it from day one, like grassroots stuff. There's only 4 of you involved in it. You'll appreciate the dynamics and how difficult it is to get there. But I've had people that worked here that were very much here right at the beginning, but didn't really appreciate it. So it fades over time, that feeling. So if you can maintain that. What might put your nose out of joint is when you get to this team of like 15, 20 people and they go, right, you can buy in. The guy or lady that's only been there for 5 years, not from day one, but they're a really valuable member of the team. It'd be quite hard when they say that person's also buying in, even though they haven't been here for that long, because if we don't let that person buy in, they're going to leave, and we need to retain them. So it's a very emotional journey. And back to my example, my friend that's in that sort of position, he's in that position where he's like, do we get an outsider to buy in who hasn't got a clue about the business? But then that's going to plug that hole, isn't it?
Definitely. I think, and as well, like back to the whole thing about culture, as you say, if we've got that set culture where we want to be constantly delivering that personal level of customer service, and it has to reflect in all employees, because we've all, at the end of the day, you can tell people to do stuff, but it's much better if they're willing to. Like, all the team so far, we want to give that service. It's kind of like, as you say, that culture is built into us, and I think, when you get someone external, you take the risk that they don't feel the same way, and actually they might think, okay, now I'm buying in, we're going to try and do some cost cutting, and that comes at a sacrifice of customer service, etc. So I think
exactly,
definitely.
Okay, so I'm just having a quick scan of your kind of things that are going to prevent you getting to there. Okay. So obviously, your first one is about the core values and the relationship with their broker and all the rest of it, which I think we've covered. But realistically, it is inherently difficult as you grow a business to make sure everybody's on board, unless you grow it really slowly and organically to spend the time. So make sure you put things like policies, training packs, welcome packs for new staff. I think, we've done it here now, and I pinched the idea from Norman actually, but he has like a little booklet which he gives to his staff on the first day, which is like, this is what we expect from you. When you interview people, like we kind of, during the like crazy period after pandemic, when the employment market was like, are they breathing? Let's just hire them, because because it was crazy out there. But prior to that, there was like a 2-step interview process. So I would interview them or somebody would, and then someone else would sit in and make sure that they were a good fit for the team.
Yeah.
Assuming that the employment market's not crazy, that's always good because it's a second pair of eyes on employing people.
Definitely.
You go, right, Jake, you got on with them a house like fire because they also like golf and all the things you do and they've impressed you. And then someone else comes in and then sits in that room with them and goes, do you know what? I asked them a few questions about something or other and they didn't give me the answers I was hoping for. And it's quite hard as you go, well, they're going to work for me in my department and I really like them, but someone else is saying, I don't think they're a good fit. And that's when you have to grow as a team and make sure you're taking on the right people. And I always go for the hire slow, fire fast approach if you can. So take your time about hiring people. And if they're not right, get rid of them. Like literally, you'll never change people. There's like a phrase like you you can't change the people, change the people. Which is basically just like you'll never, if someone comes in and they're not a good fit, then there's no point trying to mold them into.
No, exactly. Some people aren't willing to change, are they? You know, so they're kind of set in their ways and are happy like that, and that's fair enough. But as you say, if they're not a right fit, then
on your list of goals, 3 biggest challenges in reaching these goals is getting a physical office would be a big hurdle. What's the benefit? What does an actual physical office bring you?
So I think for us, obviously, so at the moment, all the teams from home. So we're all 5 days a week from home, and occasionally some of us go and work with other colleagues. So for example, I will join Catherine a few days a week at the moment and work in her house. But I think at the end of the day, when you're trying to build that team culture and I think it's hard over just doing it over the internet. Because our sister companies like that, we're completely remote, and actually a lot of the team are spread out across the country now. So just getting everyone together and seeing the whole team all at once is we can only do it about 4 times a year because it comes with obviously quite a large substantial cost getting all these people and getting that date booked in as well, as you can probably imagine with 15 people that here there everywhere. It's hard sometimes getting something locked in. But I think having an office, I think for building those relationships with your team, and especially when we talk about culture, when you have an office, those employees see that culture day to day. Whereas at home, you kind of left to your own devices. At least that's what I find. Basically, I can there's no one there listening on your calls. I could answer them how I like in theory. Whereas in the office, you're picking up on other people, you're picking up on how they do things, and you're constantly learning. And especially for me, when I've got someone like Catherine working with us, who's got 30 odd years in the insurance sector and knows exactly what she's doing. Being with someone like that when you're there 5 days a week, constantly learning off them, is so beneficial to me. And then obviously if we get other staff as well that join on over time, beneficial for them as well to learn from all of us. And I think that for me that is a kind of goal of mine to have an office. Whether from a business perspective, the pros and cons of it is not something that I've thought about massively, but for me, I think definitely I'd like one, because I think being at home, you lose that connection with the team. You don't have that kind of sometimes friendship with your members that you could have if you were in an office seeing them all the time.
Do you think that part of the growth in terms of getting more staff is going to be easier if you have a physical office, or do you think the remote working?
I think it depends. Some people are, you kind of hear about these discussions all the time, and it's something that I've had a few discussions on at various networking groups where it's kind of come up. And some people are a big fan of working from home because it does, obviously, it's convenient at the end of the day. It has, there's no commuting involved, and especially for some people that have, say, like a dog or something, you're always there. You don't have to worry about having someone drop in on them. You're looking at the cost of travel as well. That's excluded from home. However, obviously, you do have an increased cost of utilities, etc., being there. But I think, and then you've got the other side where some people are a bit like me, where I think, although I've worked from home and I've enjoyed it, I'm now on an office. So I think it'd be really good at some point in the future to get an office. And some people who are used to working in an office might think, actually they're offering work from home only. That's not what I want. I want to be in an office, or at least do hybrid or something along those lines. I think that's why it's a bit of you kind of got that hurdle there, because it really depends on people's preference. And some people will, if there's another job which is, say, hiring for exactly the same role as a competitor to us, and they've got an office and we work from home, if that person would rather go to an office, that's a bit of a
your personal vision would be to have it more location based, or are you thinking, because at the moment the Clubcast side of there's people all over the UK, is that right?
No, so sorry, that's Top Sales. That's our
Top
sister
Sales,
company,
sorry, yeah.
and then Mango. That's the four of us.
Yeah,
But
okay.
yeah, the Top Sales got people all over the UK.
Yeah.
And part of that is because it's more of an international business. So obviously Mango, we're all about being a local, kind of personal broker. So if we were to get an office, it would be Eastbourne based, because that's kind of our target area, Eastbourne and surrounding areas. So it would be Eastbourne. So it's not comparable to our sister company because all the clients are international there. So having an office would really serve no purpose apart from being with your colleagues. Whereas I think with Mango, aside from the company benefits in terms of us as employees and seeing each other, I think some clients do like coming into a physical premises. I mean, I don't know if you find that, obviously having an office here, do you ever find that clients do prefer to come in and see you face to face rather than be on the phone?
I think so, but as time has gone by, we get less and less visitors. I mean, obviously we still need to hand out keys and stuff and things like that. That's the nature of our business, but I would say there's a definite decrease. The volume of visitors is about the same as it was about 5 years ago, but we are literally 4 times the size of it.
Right, okay.
So it's an actual annualized drop off in terms of people popping in, if you like. You do get people pop in and just drop a letter off at the front desk because it's convenient rather than posting it, but not many people coming in who specifically want to chat, to be honest. Obviously you got the odd anomaly and they'll have meetings and things like that, but people are a lot more au fait with the usage of Teams and Zoom and stuff now. I mean, pre-pandemic it was like, oh, so we're not meeting in person, whereas now it's almost like, oh, what, you want to meet in person?
Yeah, exactly, definitely.
It's like a working from home convenience, isn't it? That you can actually have that. I mean, I can join in on meetings when I'm driving along now because I just phone in on them, essentially, and we don't have a fancy, I don't know what they call them. They used to have like the big phone in the middle and a conference phone type thing.
Right,
we don't have that. We just use Teams now. So yeah, I just I think we had this conversation with Catherine about with the business, in order to grow it to a substantial size, probably you have to look outside of your local Eastbourne area.
I think that would be long term. Yeah, to kind of start spreading out a little bit.
So this the small fish, big pond syndrome type thing. If you're fishing from a small pond, then you're less likely to catch those bigger customers, which are going to then lead you to growing the team to a bigger size. You look at some of the brokers that are in Eastbourne, even the ones that have gone, obviously they've shut up shop and gone remote.
Moved elsewhere.
But even there's one well-known one, which we won't mention, that has a physical premises
in Eastbourne.
They've been going a very, very long time, very well established, but they've never grown beyond probably 6 members of staff in that business.
Yeah, it's about right.
Because they are so hyper-focused in the kind of local Eastbourne area. Like you go to Brighton and people have never heard of them.
Yeah, true.
And that's not that far away. It's only 12 miles down the road, next biggest city. So I think the location is good. I think getting your staff together, but my personal advice would be probably think about if the goal is just to get the staff together and be having that camaraderie with your work colleagues and the training environment more than perhaps the customers needing to pop in. You might want to look at serviced offices because you can get a license with somebody like Regis where you don't actually have a physical office, but you have the ability to go in and use the space for a day or something. So this is serviced office. You can just hire the meeting room. So you can have a physical address here. So you can have all your posts sent here and the rest of it. You can meet clients in the reception area out the front. To them, it's like a nice circulation space area or whatever. But from a staffing point of view, you could be like, right, this is where we're going to hold team meetings. And they're going to be the last Friday of the month. We'll do it regularly. And if you can't come, you have to send your apologies for the meeting. And then we just hire this room out and we have a good session. And the thing is, you'll have Wi-Fi here. And I presume most of your stuff is all in the Ethernet.
Oh, yeah. I don't think we use paper for anything nowadays.
No. So therefore, as long as you've got an internet connection when you go and hire one of these rooms, you've got everything you need to set up there and have a kind of training session and maybe take some calls, maybe do a live thing. And you could do that. You could almost say to them, we'll do that every Friday if you wanted to, if that was a good thing. So we're remotely based. Everyone works from home, but every Friday between, 9 and 5, we're actually down at the Regis building in Eastbourne or whatever it is. And the beauty of the Regis or other ones are available is that you can then go, right, we're actually moving more towards Tunbridge Wells, for instance,
Yeah.
as a clientele, what we're going to do is we're going to start using their building up there, because there's serviced offices dotted around everywhere in the UK. So you can always get that space. And it gives you the ability to have a registered address for people to drop post off at the front desk like we've got here. You don't have to man it all the time, so you can let people work from home, but then you can just hire a room on a daily basis. Yeah, really good for staff retention and like avoiding that loneliness. Like some people just don't work well from home.
No.
They think they do because it's convenient, but they're working off a dining room table, or their kids in the background, or they just don't have the space for it anyway. You know, they work off their sofa, and it's not good.
It's not healthy. No.
And some people just need that human interaction.
Yeah,
to be honest.
And that's how I feel actually. I kind of feel if it wasn't for all this networking that we do, I would definitely get lonely at home, being there 5 days a week in my spare room, because that's where I've got my desk set up. I've got a nice setup, I've got a proper desk and space to go. But I think it is nice just to have that human interaction. You know, we kind of need it, and to be at home all day just on the phone.
Yeah.
And it's good. It's good to just see your colleagues and speak to them and have that interaction.
Yeah, definitely. I really hope you enjoyed this podcast today, and it's been a really, really good listen so far. But if you want to get on this podcast and come on the show, it's totally and utterly 100% free. All you have to do is come into the podcast studio, sit down, we film it for YouTube, and then we also make an audio file for Spotify, Apple, all those streaming services. What you need to do is head over to our website, www.matthewcox, that's Matthew with 2 T's, .biz. So it's matthewcox.biz. There's a preloaded form on there. Fill that in, apply to be on the podcast. We'll get back to you within a few days, get you booked in, we'll get you on here, and then we'll sort out your goals and your achievements. Back to the podcast. So I think the physical office versus remote working things, like an interesting conversation, does come up quite a lot, because it's a real cultural change across the whole world. And I think that sometimes to attract the right people, you have to remain flexible and so on. But I suppose I think the physical office itself, I think if you remain that flexible thing, because you're always going to get a few people that want to come in and hand their check in or sign their renewal in person. But those people, not to be too morbid about it, they will kind of fade away. And I think the next generation of people are going to be far less fussed about doing that. And I get that it's good to have like a USP, like that everybody's online, but you can come in and speak to us. But if no one sees value in that, then it's kind of a pointless USP. Definitely. Because no one's actually sees any value to that. I mean, one of our first podcast guests they wanted to spend millions of pounds on making all of their long haulage trucks eco-friendly. Right. And I asked them, like, do your customers actually care about it being eco-friendly? They want to go after the customer that cares, but that's fine, because that's a niche market for them, and there's quite a lot of monetary value in that market. Definitely. But I was like, I don't know if the does your likes of, like, I'm not saying B&Q don't care about carbon footprint, but do your likes of, say, a B&Q care over, say, like a Waitrose, really? And then if you're only going for your Waitrosey type people that got more of a remit for that, then are you cutting out a lot of your market? So therefore your business is going to be particularly niche in catering for those people. Your USP is going to be like, you can come in and see us, but if no one cares about that apart from a few select people, is a bit of a pointless USP. Waste of money. Yeah. I think much more you use it as a staff training hub, if you like, because I think so. Mental health and well-being will be really important in the future. You know, when people will get a bit lonely at home, and you know that camaraderie of being with your team and not being like on a Zoom call and stuff kind of wears a bit thin, and people fall into more hybrid working. 2 days at home, 3 in the office, or vice versa.
And I think on the point of hybrid, I think that's a very fair compromise. And you see a lot of companies nowadays that are going for that, where they've kind of, during COVID, obviously they transitioned to being work from home, retained their offices, and everyone's come back and gone, actually, no, I don't want to do that. But the company says, we want you there, because obviously, as we spoke about, having that training aspect, being there, being available. Yeah. So they've kind of gone for the hybrid approach. And I think that I'd be quite happy with that, because I think then you get the best of both worlds. You're getting the benefit of being with your colleagues and learning off them and being able to facilitate training. And I think sometimes as well, even just with the simplest things like wanting to ask a question, you know, if you're just, someone's over there and you can just shout at them and go, well, how do I do this? But then when you're at home, you know, am I going to then pick up the phone to them just to ask a silly little question. It's like sometimes little things like that are the benefits of having an office, that you're able to communicate much easier. But then obviously, as we, there are benefits of being at home. So I think a hybrid approach in a like a hired office where you could come in as much as a serviced office, as much or as little as you want, is a great way. And as you kind of use, as you said, just going, okay, everyone in on a Friday or on a Thursday. That's like the bare minimum. You can do as much as you want outside of that. Then you're able to have that kind of that relationship and those training opportunities.
I definitely so, and I think that I would steer away from opening it just to cater for that market of people that want to come in. I know there'll be people out there that like that, and I think we mentioned in the break, I have one credit card company out of probably a dozen or so that I deal with, where you can actually physically ring a number and somebody answers. And the people that look after my pension are the same. You ring a number and they answer. And I'm not going to lie, I'm like, it's super convenient when I can't self-serve. I can't figure out what I want on the website. I can't do it just to ring a number. So there's that little element of human interaction there. But I would say the times that I need to do that are very minimal. It's really when I'm trying to do something like super bespoke, like maybe in my pension, I'm like trying to move this over to here, but without selling that and do that. I can't find the button that does that. Or maybe I want a printout for a valuation on it or something, but I want it to only give me the certain dates, and it won't give me that because it's set to quartile dates or something like that. Fine, very bespoke stuff, but 90% of the time self-serve, and I'm perfectly fine with it. I do think that as we move forward as a generation, the latest generation of people, your kind of era, maybe even younger than you, like my kids are like 14, 15, and they just, when their phones ring, they just look at them like, why is someone ringing me? Like, they much prefer a text. People don't really want to have that human interaction anymore.
Yeah, definitely.
Chatbots are so much more accepted than they were like probably 10 years ago. They
were every website has one almost, don't
irritating before, weren't they? Whereas now people are like, actually, it's quite convenient because I can ask it a question, wait for the reply whilst I do something else. So yeah, I think to put too much of an emphasis on it, I probably wouldn't go down the whole kind of having that physical office route for public, as in for your customers. I'm not sure they're going to see the value in it.
Staff benefit more than anything. But I mean, and the good thing is that that's kind of, as I said in there, that's more of a 3 to 5 year to almost 5 to 10 year kind of goal. So we've got a long time to then also kind of, I think in that time we may even be able to see whether we can attract any customers having a physical office, because sometimes it does come up. Sometimes customers might even mention and say, "Oh, have you got an office I can come to?" And then it's like, if quite a few people are starting to say that, you can base your decision on that. But in 5 years, we probably might come to the conclusion and think, "Oh, we're quite happy to do it all over the phone," because for us, that's what we do. I mean, we don't have a chat bot. Nothing. You can't really do much on our website. No. Our website's just for a bit of information. We're all about phone and obviously email and
Okay. So just kind of having a look at the rest of the form we've got here, and I think we'll come back full circle a little bit to your development in it within Mango. But I've got the question: what does your day-to-day look like for you in the business? At the moment, you spend each day primarily consisting of speaking to customers over the phone, obtaining quotes, quote process, quite a bit of time, especially when there's a wide range of potential options, and do that a few times a week, and a bit of networking and the rest of it. In order for you to kind of accelerate yourself, grow the business and accelerate yourself with the stands of Mango, if you like, so that you kind of get to your kind of equity partner thing, I think it would be good, if you can kind of stand on not on your own 2 feet, so to speak, although that's probably what I'm really getting at. As Jake, as an entity, like you're like an account leader, like you're kind of almost like Catherine's protege, if you like. Maybe build a bit of personal brand about you so that people buy into you. That will also secure your long-term longevity into this. You can take it with you if you were to leave at some point. Hopefully you will continue on this pathway and it'll be successful for you, but you can then leverage that brand, if you like, through the Mango. So I don't know what you guys do on like social media, like as individuals, not just as Mango as the brand. But I see a lot of brokers, mortgages, accountants and stuff doing, like the owners or senior people doing little soundbite videos and stuff like that, especially through LinkedIn. I think they get a lot more traction if you do them personally than they do through like a business profile.
Yeah.
And we send that quite a lot in our own data. So that would definitely be something to work on. And it will also give you, Jake, as a brand, if you're only, you'll be like Jake, the insurance guy, like I know him, and people have that interaction with you, especially as we move away from that. Maybe people coming into the office, they can at least see you and consume that content, if you like. I would suggest maybe you do some like 30-second to 1 minute little videos about insurance. Like, I'm thinking about what does the excess mean on my policy? I think I might increase it. How would that affect it? And then you might answer the question in a kind of summarized, jokey style stuff. So it's a bit entertaining into the thing, into your little bit of footage. But then get that out, and then that's your like personal branding. Obviously, it's all branded Mango because that's what you're promoting. But people they feel that connection with Jake. Then
I definitely agree with that. Kind of since we've kind of had Mango, I've been really hot on LinkedIn trying to post where I can. So if I go out and do something, if I'm out doing a networking event, I'll try and just get a post on LinkedIn just because I have something to post about. And actually, I think doing those videos, something I thought about, because I think kind of, at the moment it is, I will only post if I've done something, or if, it's something of interest to post, whereas I'm not doing too much to kind of, I would never post on my personal LinkedIn, just like a salesy post. Whereas I think those ones are where you do like a little video explaining something about insurance. It's kind of piques someone's interest, but you're not going down that selling route. So, and I agree. And then, I mean, I've found that, well, for now, at the moment, both mine and Catherine's LinkedIn, I think we have more connections or followers, whatever you want to call it, than the actual company page. But that's because people get to know us as us and then kind of connect with us. I mean, I don't know if you find the same. If someone deals with you, they'll probably connect with you on LinkedIn first, rather than they wouldn't connect with the Charles Cox account first in that. So
it's exactly that. Like, I'm a silent partner in a firm of chartered accountants.
Yeah.
And Sharon heads up that for us, awesome accountants. And she will be doing all these videos where she's like, someone's written in and said, can I claim, my child's childcare as tax deductible because I can only work if my child's in nursery or whatever. And then she's going to answer that, and basically in a kind of like, well, in a perfect world, there's a little bit of a joke to this, but we all think that should be fine. But actually, realistically, on HMRC's website, here's the factual stuff. So, but they're very short videos. They're like 30 seconds, maybe a minute long, that sort of thing. Or, can I claim for my shirts because I'm told by my employer I have to go into work and wear a shirt? And she'll be like, well, actually, if it's branded, you can, but if it's not branded, then it's just deemed to be a piece of clothing. But actually an entertaining version of that, not kind of a monotone, boring version of it. And then people will be like, I don't need an accountant right now, and I don't need Sharon, and I don't need this or whatever, but I'll remember that for later because I thought I could get a shirt or whatever it might be through tax deductible allowance. And they'll save that. They might not need it now, but they'll need it later. And then they'll remember that. And if they see that again, when they're ready to purchase, essentially. So I think there's like a sort of 3 stages to it, really. Like people that need insurance or an accountancy are ready to buy one and are almost like in need of it. So there are 3 types of target. And most of that is aimed at people that are probably in the market for it at some point. They're not necessarily need it right now, but when they do need it, they'll then come back to you. And unfortunately, content is like a hungry teenage child. You have to keep feeding it all the time.
So absolutely.
Consistency.
Consistency is key. You've got to be on it all the time, haven't you?
So I think those things are really important. Make sure you market and do those customers, the ones that need your service and the ones that might need it in the future. Different types of video. It will build your personal brand as much as it will build Mango, and people will feel connected to you if you do that.
Yeah, and I think as well, and it shows your intelligence in a way in terms of your knowledge of the industry. Even just answering simple little questions, people find that helpful. At the end of the day, we're happy to help. I've always said this throughout our networking. The people that I meet, is that even if you're not customer of mine, if you have a question, you're welcome to ask, and I can help where I can. And with those videos, that's exactly that. It's just like little bite-sized bits of information that might help someone.
You could do one on like insurance premium tax. I'm sure most people go, "What is that?" And that could be an extremely short video where you just go, "It's the type of tax the government put on. I don't really have another answer for you because it's pointless." Or whatever you.
Well, I like the idea about the excess. It's just something. It's something simple, isn't it? And it's just you can get the information out there, and it's kind of that give us gain attitude, isn't it? If I give them some really good information that's helped them, they might think, oh, you know what, I like him.
Is exactly I'll that. Go, what is the difference if I tinker with the excess? Does it really make any difference at all? I've got a piece of jewellery, but I haven't had it listed. Do I have to have it valued, or do I need a certificate, or what? All those sort of things. Or my son broke the tap, when he was having a paddy, and then I flooded downstairs. Is that an accident, or because he broke it because he was a teenager and he lost his temper or something? I don't know what they are. You have to.
I think on that note, like those people always find it with insurance. You think you don't need it until you need it. So I think when you got those interesting claim stories, like something that's quite funny or kind of piques your interest, and it is helpful to know, because you might never have thought that you need that particular product until I tell you that story, and you think, oh, actually, I could see that's something that could happen to me quite easily, and then they go, bang, I need that. So definitely little things like that is a great idea.
Perfect. Well, I hope that's really helped and given you some good insight. Did you have any other kind of questions or anything you wanted to ask at all? Or?
I don't think so. I mean, I like how, so obviously for you said that you kind of started as a junior and then gradually went to that to being to buy into being a partner. What did, in terms of like the roles that you've done, what was your process? How did you get from point A to point B? Because I'm kind of on the way, so it's interesting to know what the journey looked like for you.
Well, I mean, I suppose, to summarise, I started as a fairly junior person. I was in a business that got bought by a larger business. I then went to work for that practice, and I recognised that a lot of the people around me weren't that good at their job. In reality, they were just kind of fake it till you make it sort of thing. And the department that I was in wasn't particularly well organised. It was making money, but it could be more profitable. So I figured out what drove the partnership, and I was like, what is going to actually drive this partnership forward? They want to make more money, want to be more stable. This bit side of the business ticks all those boxes if we can do that. So the start of it was really trying to get them on board and demonstrate that I was actually a tangible option for them to really consider and promote through the firm, because I was going over and above my normal role of just managing blocks of flats, for instance. I was recognising, how we could grow the business and the rest of it. I was taking things on like the website. I was like, it's a bit outdated, but no one's got any time to deal with it, but it's important to us. So I took on developing the website, and I would just do it in my evenings. I would also make sure that I was often one of the last people to leave the building. So the last thing they had at night, probably for 3 years, is that Matt's always stays late, even though I didn't stay that much later than him. In fact, sometimes I wasn't really doing too much work anyway, but it was a psychological thing. So I made sure that, I wouldn't say it was a game that I played, but I made sure I played that game correctly. I also made sure I was strategic in making sure that what I was bringing to the table was actually valuable to the business. So the website was a good example. Things like staff reviews, we didn't have any of those put in place. There were policies. HR was missing where the business had grown and just kind of like evolved organically. And there was no one really particularly managing like the practice, things like IT services and stuff. It was all like, oh, I think that's her job, and then this job would be somewhere over there. So tidied all of that up, because they were the partners' pain points at that moment in time. And that allowed them to take me really seriously, as a member of staff that they didn't want to lose. And then they promoted me to what they called an associate partner. And I hadn't been there that long. I'd only been there about 18 months, 2 years at the time. And I was promoted above people that had been there for 10 years or so and were just hoping for their gold watch or whatever they were hoping for at the end. And the problem with that was that put a few noses out of joint. So it wasn't an easy decision for the partnership to promote me, but it was one that they said, actually, the long-term longevity, Matt has the enthusiasm and the skill set, and he's demonstrated that over a long period of time. And I hadn't once asked for a pay rise or done anything like that. I was quite strategic in that sense. I just was doing it because I loved doing it, and I genuinely did like doing it anyway. And then realistically, I then figured out how I would get from there to being a partner. So by upping those skills that I'd already gone and looking at how the partnership was structured and the rest of the departments in the practice. So it was a multidiscipline, and I started looking at the building surveying department, the estate agency, and then doing all these little mini projects, which took that away from the partners. And then eventually they were like, well, we'd like to make you a partner.
Yeah.
Would you like to buy in? They were actually losing money when I bought in, because we'd just gone through the financial crash in 2008.
Right, okay,
You're probably a little bit young to remember.
No, I know a bit about it. A bit before my time, but I've read it.
Feels so strange now. But yeah, that was. I mean, I was about maybe a fraction older than you when that happened, but not a lot. So I didn't fully understand it at the time, but I recognised that there were some proper pain points going through. So I needed to keep my head down, make sure that I didn't rock the boat anywhere, but also to assist them in making sure the business was still profitable as best as I possibly could. So painting myself in the best picture over a long period of time. They were quite old school, those people. So, they valued that. And
yes,
it's more about me recognising their old school to value it.
Yes, you brought that modern approach.
Yeah.
Without trying to change them, you just showed them kind of actually
exactly.
This is how we could do things to try and attract that audience in a way.
I mean, some people, it wasn't brown nosing, but it was an element of figure out what the problems were, focus in on those. I've figured out exactly what the issues were and then helped to try and resolve them.
Yeah.
And that took time. I mean, I was there, I joined 2008, just before the crash, and I left in 2014. So 6 years for me to go from being a kind of I was just somebody that I was incidental, they bought a business and I came in, and then I worked my way up through that time for a 6-year period. So.
It's amazing. Yeah. I mean, as you say, you showed your value basically. You showed them exactly
I made
what
myself
you were.
Irreplaceable.
Yeah.
Basically.
And I think that is important as an employee, isn't it? To secure your future, you've got to show that you're kind of irreplaceable, or not necessarily irreplaceable, but very difficult to replace.
I mean, yes, nobody is irreplaceable in any business at all, but difficult to replace. Or I did the job of like 4 people.
Yeah.
So if I left, you need to employ 4 people to do what I'm doing now, because that skill set isn't there. It's very unusual. And to be fair to them, I know we were left, and I probably burnt some bridges on the way out, but the reality is most people that can do the job of 4 people, they end up making a partner, or they end up setting up on their own.
Yeah.
Those are the 2 ways.
And I think that depends on how you're treated by your employer at the end of the day, because if you feel like you've got the skills to be able to be partner, but it's not been offered to you, or it's kind of not really on the table, then that's where you do kind of go.
And at that moment
you think, why not give it a shot? Don't you? Take a chance.
At that moment in time, you have to figure out yourself. Really, you have
definitely.
to decide if it's going to be for you or not. I mean, I made a conscious decision to leave, and I'm glad I did, because I thought it's going to take probably 10 years or so for me to actually get this business where I want to, because they didn't truly see into everything that I wanted to do.
Didn't have your vision.
And the irony is we're 10 years in pretty much now, and the business has just been sold to someone else, and they're not continuing with the name. So that's the end of that business, basically.
And if you'd stayed on, then it might have
been okay. We'll never know, but I might have been able to turn it around and make it a success and carry on the legacy. But I chose to set up on my own, and rest is history, really.
Rest is history. You've got the Charles Cox legacy now.
Well, hopefully a legacy of some nature. But anyway, it's been brilliant having you on. So if people want to get hold of you, Jake, how do they get hold of you?
If you can please call me on our landline, so that's 01323 444 555, and ask for me, and more than happy to chat.
Yeah, brilliant. And you got a website?
We do have a website, mangoinsurance.co.uk.
Yeah.
But if you want to contact us, best to always give us a call.
Super.
So yeah,
brilliant. Well, it's been lovely having you on. It'd be super to have you on again in like a year's time.
Yeah, we'll see what's changed.
Yeah, hopefully you've got some more staff and things are growing.
Definitely. Yeah, amazing. Brilliant. Thank you, Matt.
No problem at all. All right, take care. So as you can see, we did talk a bit about Jake and his journey there, and making sure that he's got it written down, and he's kind of solidified and quantified exactly how his journey is going to pan out. But I think it's really important that Jake, coming from a time in life, if you like, where remote working or hybrid working is actually the norm for him, being a young lad at 20, that he's hyper focused on this office space and the rest of it, and fulfilling that client that wants to come in. But I'm not sure there's actually a real need for that. So they just have to watch that when they go on that journey. So I hope that's been really useful for everybody, learning about Jake's journey, making sure that the advice that I've given him is implemented and he protects himself and helps grow that business and is rewarded for it and doesn't feel resentment. And also that if you're going to niche out, there is actually a market for that niche. If you would like to come on the podcast, go over to our website, matthewcox.biz. That's Matthew with 2 T's, or as always, and I always say 2 T's because a lot of people type 1 T. So Matthew Cox with 2 T's. .biz, go over to there. There's actually a form, and it literally asks you very similar questions to what we've gone through with Jake today and the other guests. And then you can get on this show. It's completely free. You can use all the footage yourself for your own social medias or whatever. And we just have basically a good old chinwag about your business. I'll give you some of my thoughts on it and impart a bit of wisdom.